You can see the screen. How are you doing today? Happy Thursday. Well, let's see, who do we have in? Can you guys see the chat popping up before we start? Can you see that? There are a couple of things that I'm going to discuss today. I'll talk about what is happening actually to your money, why savings is keeping you stuck, and we'll talk about some of the quiet moves that are happening in crypto right now. We'll talk about Bitcoin's next move as well. Hey Sam, good to see you. Good to see you, YKH. We'll talk about Bitcoin's next move, and we'll also talk about some of the altcoins, what is happening, and where we are heading next. Okay, we've got a couple of people. Maybe we'll start talking about some financial advice in general while people are joining. Because most people obviously think that they have money problem, but they don't. They have an understanding problem, because right now, while you are saving, working towards everything that you want to achieve, you're saving and you're trying to do everything right, your money is actually quietly losing value. Not because you're making mistakes, but because nobody ever showed us how money actually works in the system. And if we don't understand the rules of the game, obviously we can't win it, right? So your money is basically shrinking. Even if your bank balance is going up, which is something we all want to see, we all want to have, while it's going up, that's inflation. Inflation is eating your money. Prices rise over time, which means your money buys you less every single year. You're not preserving wealth. You're slowly losing it in this financial system. And the worst part is that it's kind of invincible. It is invincible because you don't feel it day to day, but over years it adds up massively. So the first mindset shift that we all need to have is saving alone is not enough. It protects your money, yes, but it doesn't grow it. And we want ideally something that grows our money. You know, people, and that's why I'm talking about all of this, because people also confuse saving and investing. They think this is the same thing, but this is not. Saving is for safety. It's your backup plan. It's your short-term stability. Investing, on the other side, is growth. That's how you actually build wealth over time. If all you do is, just save, you're standing still. And in today's world that we have, standing still is actually, it means that you are falling behind. So you need both. You need security and you need growth. And most people underestimate one variable in all of this: time. Not how much you invest, but how long your money is working. Because when you invest, your returns start generating their own returns. And then those returns generate more and more. At first, obviously, it feels a little bit slow, a little bit boring, like nothing is happening. But over time, it accelerates. This is why someone, starting earlier with small accounts usually beat somebody starting later with more money. Because compounding needs time, and that's the real edge that we're looking for. And usually when we ask people, if I ask you or somebody asks you, how are you doing financially? What would you say? Most people focus, on their income, right? Most people say, I get 10,000 a month dollars, I get 5,000, whatever that number is, it doesn't matter. Most people focus on this, but income doesn't really tell the real story. You can earn a lot and still have nothing, right? Or earn less and quietly build real wealth. What actually matters is your net worth. What you own minus what you owe. That's the number that shows if you're moving forward or not, really. Once you start tracking that, then everything changes. And why I'm saying all of this, because I personally hold, of course, I have some in my bank account, I have some savings because I treat that as emergency. I need to have some emergency, maybe something happens tomorrow. I need to be prepared, right? And I encourage everyone, to have something in the savings. But most of my savings are actually in Bitcoin because I see Bitcoin as a place where I can multiply what I already have. And we talk now about what is happening with Bitcoin and why I see it as this kind of, wealth generator. Inflation eating away at my money is better than currency stealing my money. Okay. Well, yes, I'm talking about Bitcoin, not all the altcoins. Today's world. Indeed, James. Welcome. We're not late. We just started pretty much. So, what is happening with Bitcoin? Let's open up the chart as we speak. Now, Bitcoin. Well, everyone is kind of distracted right now by the price because we see Bitcoin fluctuating up, down, moving in this kind of pattern over here in this channel. And right now it had a small pump, which we're going to track shortly. Well, everyone is distracted by the price moves. A quiet shift is happening behind the scenes because it's not always about another crypto update, but this change that is happening right now looks structural, and this is what matters. For the first time, a crypto company, I'm talking about Kraken here. By the way, that is my favorite exchange. I don't know what exchanges you guys are using, probably in the US. It depends on your location, kind of, because probably in the US, I know that Coinbase is the most popular exchange, but I personally use Kraken. For me, Kraken is the best exchange. And Kraken, in fact, they are moving closer to the core of the financial system than closer and faster than anyone ever expected. And if they actually manage to plug into that financial system, what changes are going to happen? It's very important because before we go further down the line and what is happening with Kraken, Kraken was founded in 2011 and it survived the empty GOGS crash, the 2018 ISO crash, the two-year crypto winter, the FTX collapse. While others disappeared, Kraken stayed. Kraken was never just an exchange, an ordinary exchange that people see it. It was a long-term bet that one day crypto would operate inside the financial system. For decades, there has been a clear line. On one side you have the banks, you have the payment rails, you have regulated deposits. On the other side you have crypto, which is outside the system, dependent on banks to some extent, and never truly inside, that overall financial system. And something just changed. Kraken is moving towards direct access to core financial infrastructure, not a partner, not a middleman, direct access. Think about that, what that means. No intermediaries, no correspondent bank, just direct settlement. That's a very big integration. And you might think, what does that even mean? But that's a very big shift for crypto because Kraken has reportedly been working toward bank level regulatory status, like a national bank charter. And this would allow it to hold regulated customer deposits directly, access core payment rails, the same infrastructures that banks use, settle transactions without third-party bank, and operate inside the financial system rather than being dependent on it. And that's a big deal because, as you know, until now, every single exchange they need banks. You need to move fiat from somewhere, right? USDT, Euro, whatever currency you use. You need to move it from a bank. And so crypto is not in its own. It's dependent on the fiat system, which could be cut off at any time. And we've seen that happening already. So what is happening now with Kraken? I'm glad to see that Paul also loves Kraken. What country is it? Oh, it's not a country. We're talking about Kraken as an exchange. Kraken operates in every country pretty much, as far as I know. And why I'm sharing this news in this article? Because the line between crypto and traditional finance is breaking. People don't talk about it, they don't see it in the headlines, but it is happening. Crypto is moving from speculation to financial infrastructure. Of course, there is a trade off here. The bullish side is that more institutional money can enter, easier access, which means more liquidity, stronger long term adoption. But then on the other side, you have things like full regulations, KYC, reporting rules, less permissionless access. So Bitcoin can become a little bit more controlled at the access layer, even if the protocol stays decentralized. But that's why I think we have probably the next 5 years to actually, or this upcoming cycle, to make life-changing gains. Something that before institutions come, before they ruin everything for us, before this whole infrastructure is being built, this is one of the rarest opportunities that we have to invest in Bitcoin and triple or make maybe 5x our money, even if we only invest it in Bitcoin itself. And you don't see it happening, but if we want to, put some kind of analogy here, let's take the internet. The internet didn't take over because people demanded it. Banks started rebuilding their systems first. This is what we saw. Payment networks changed. Then the world followed. The world just followed that because already infrastructure came first, but payment networks changed and banks rebuilt their systems. So the world just simply followed that. And we see the same thing happening right now with crypto. And Kraken is one of the first exchanges that is trying to gain this real infrastructure access. And if that happens, Bitcoin doesn't just, remain ordinary asset. It becomes part of the system. And once something becomes the infrastructure, it doesn't get removed. It actually becomes essential for further operations. So that's something very important that I wanted to share with you, because probably you won't hear it spoken somewhere else while people are focusing on just the price itself of Bitcoin, the price of altcoins. But it's important to understand what is actually driving these price movements that we see. Now, on the political side, we have the ceasefire, which was announced a couple of days ago. I think that's ending in 6 days, on 22nd of April, if I'm not wrong. It's still holding, technically holds. And we have one variable, which is controlling Bitcoin right now more than anything else, more than the Fed, more than the ETF inflows, more than the halving event. That's oil. Oil is controlling the price of Bitcoin right now. And I posted something very funny, or somebody posted on my Discord yesterday, this funny pattern that you see over here. I found it pretty funny and amusing, but it's the reality. We've seen that multiple times. We've seen this circle playing around. Trump bombs Iran, oil up. We see the sell-off in oil. Then say peace is near, then we see oil going down. Like this circle kept repeating. And as long as oil stays above $100, we see it now currently at, if we go back to the chart of oil and its performance, we are now down to $92 per barrel. It's still sitting pretty high, but if it returns above $100, this is where inflation stays high, the Fed stays tight, liquidity stays low, and Bitcoin stays under pressure. That's it. That's the simple pipeline. It's cooling off currently, as I said, $93 per barrel, but gas prices are still up 38% since the war began. CPI came in, the data at 3.3%, a 14-month high, and all of this is driven by energy. And now kind of the Fed is trapped. They can't fix a war with interest rates. Inflation is rising. And do they just ignore it and cut anyway? Or we see, it's staying tight and risk slowing, or they just cut anyway, and then or they just remain as it is and then it risks slowing the economy. But if oil stays above $100, then personally I think that rate cuts disappear from the horizon in the near future. Maybe even we would see hikes coming back, which is very possible. And then that's pretty dangerous for Bitcoin, because Bitcoin hates tight liquidity. We would see low risk appetite, and right now this oil shock that we have is creating both scenarios. If we go now back to Bitcoin's chart, what we saw recently in early April, what is driving the price up right now? On the 1st of April, we had Bitcoin at around 60, 66, 67 at the early April, even $68, $68K. What happened is the ceasefire was announced. We saw Bitcoin bouncing up to the 72K level, just over here. And if you guys watched my previous live stream, what I explained is, if we manage to, my first target anyway, as the ceasefire was announced, I said that Bitcoin is going to 72K as a first target. If it holds there and we manage to break above that, and if obviously the ceasefire plays out as the deal is, it holds and we break above it, we are going to hit the 70K level over here. And if everything continues as per plan, then we're probably going to hit the 80s. But we saw that optimism. We hit the 76K, which is a strong resistance level. At that point, we saw this optimism. The talks failed. We then see the blockade announced, and Bitcoin now currently at 74K. But it's still holding pretty strong if you think about it. We see massive accumulation, and it's important signal that smart money is actually not panicking. It means that they're seeing something that we probably don't. Even if you look at March, the ETF inflows, if I bring this up, we have $1.13 billion that flowed into Bitcoin ETFs in March, overall March. After 4 months of consecutive outflows, we finally see inflows. Even though the conditions that we have are not so great right now with oil and the war, the scale of the war and the oil prices is pretty big. You might not realize it, but 20% of global oil trade is disrupted. Up to 10 million barrels per day cut, and nearly 1 billion barrels removed from supply. That's pretty huge. Pretty huge. Even the emergency reserves, they can cover 4 days of global demand only. Not a small shock, pretty big one. And this doesn't just create, higher inflation. It causes economic slowdown that forces central banks to kind of step in and choose. And they obviously have two paths. They don't have so many choices. There are two paths, which depends on which path they take. We can see different outcomes for Bitcoin, especially in the short term. In the short term, we see, if we go to the chart over here. So for the short term, let's talk about the bearish scenario first. If, the ceasefire stops, and then depends on what the deal would be, how things would go, the talks. If oil stays above $100 per barrel and it goes above that, obviously, as I said earlier, inflation stays high, Fed stays tight, liquidity stays low, and we're probably going to see Bitcoin testing back the 70K level over here. Would go back to 70K. If it goes back there and it breaks it, we're probably going to see it down to this supply zone over here, 63, 65 to in the 65 range over here. That would be painful for those who are trading with high leverage in particular. That would be pretty high. But that's considered as noise for the long-term holders. Nothing should stop the long-term holders from their vision. Just in the short term, if something goes wrong with oil and the deals, we can see Bitcoin below 70, potentially going back to the 65K level. Now the bullish scenario, which smart money is watching, and I personally think that this outcome will play out as well. With this oil shock, as I said earlier, that slows down the economy. When the economy slows down, obviously growth drops, unemployment rises, and the Fed has to pivot. They have to cut interest rates, they need to add liquidity, and every time that has happened, Bitcoin explodes, as we know. And this is the outcome that I see happening I think that would start panning out probably around Q4 of 2026 or Q1 of 2027. That would be the pattern that I'm also personally looking at. That would be the trigger, and that would be the catalyst for us to see Bitcoin moving to new highs in 2027. Then there is also another catalyst here that I need to add. That's the Clarity Act, potential US crypto regulation. If that passes during a liquidity pivot and the supply is thin, Bitcoin could move pretty fast to new highs. So in the short term, you have two levels you watch: the 70k, which is our floor down here. If we break below that, then we're going to the 60s in the short term. If we successfully hold the 76k level, we break above that, I think the path to 80k is pretty fast. So these are the main levels that I'm looking for in the short term. But as I said, in the long term, economy will slow down and the Fed would have to do something about that and inject liquidity. Now, what is happening with the altcoins in the short term? We see some really massive gains for some of the altcoins. Even today on my Discord, we added Based. Based was a project we added a couple of weeks back at 0.80 cents. Our first entry was at 0.80 cents, somewhere around here. And now we see that at 21 cents. Massive gains. For those who managed to buy on Discord this project, congratulations, you're probably 3x up already, or heading to 3x. If you guys want to join Discord, you'll find the link under the video, under the description. I'll be happy to welcome each one of you. But that was one of the projects that we added recently, and we're already seeing some good gains for those who managed to buy. What else do we see? Are you guys taking any profits right now at this pump, or you're mainly holding? What are you guys doing in the comments? Let me know if you're adding anything, or if you're just sitting and relaxing, or if you're taking any profits. I know people on my Discord are taking profits partially on some of the projects that they've added recently. Kind of swing trading. Taking profits and sitting on cash next. I think that's reasonable. I'm also getting rid of the small market cap projects that I'm holding, and I mainly keep positions in my big market cap projects, like solid layer ones. I can tell you that right now we see the narrative velocity and the capital flows are covering mainly the projects that were recently launched early 2026 or very late 2025, and some of the projects like Solana, Ethereum, Bitcoin, Avalanche, Near, Tau, Ondo, Hype, Render, Tron, mainly those projects. We can see that on the bubbles as well. Rave was something which really surprised me, to be honest, recently. Had a massive run. Massive run. Tau. Well, there is maybe a lot of you are now panicking what's happening with Tau. Is it dead? Is it done? What happened with Tau is one of the subnets decided to sell their position in Tau. I think they sold around 10 million Tau. But at this dip, we actually see whales who stepped in and they bought around 18,000 Tau tokens in this 260 around the 260 zone. As you can see, price pushed up. Well, step in and they bought pretty big bags at this discount. I personally think that Tao is at a very good discount right now if you guys want to buy. But again, as I always recommend, don't jump all in. I personally expect to see cheaper prices in Q3 of 2026 and better opportunities. But we never know. We might just start, maybe this is just an accumulation phase and then we start recovering to the upside. So I don't want you to be sidelined, of course. Keep adding. If you want to see, I've personally developed my accumulation phase for 2026 strategy plan that's available on Discord to see how I'm personally positioning, what my moves look like, and when I'm executing them. That's all available on Discord. But I'm just giving you some advice, some free tips on the dips. Keep adding small positions. And if you guys watched my last video on YouTube, I explained that you actually don't need millions of coins. You only need handful, like 5 or 6 projects, including Bitcoin. That depends on your capital, of course, how much you can invest. Focus on the main layer ones as of now. That's where real gains would be made. Let's see if we have any more comments. Anything interesting anyone wants to add? Dot is doing pretty well. I think Dot recently suffered. Dollar Born Majesty, good to see you. Good to see you. Dollar cost averaging and cash on the side for dips. Very good strategy. Very good strategy. As I said, yes, my opinion is that personally I'm focusing on main layer ones, and I'm adding other projects like Based. Based was a project, as I said, maybe you guys have missed it, but we added Based at around 0.80 cents, and now I already sold it yesterday, last night. I sold it pretty low over here, but it has already, for those on my Discord who held longer and who bought it, they're already at 3x. But the small market cap projects, I'm trying to sell at pretty quick, on a pretty quick time scale. I don't hold forever because these are a little bit volatile right now. As you can see, and I explained earlier, everything is driven by oil right now and the political side of the things. So one kind of negative talk or negative post by Trump, we can immediately see all of this evaporating in hours. So yeah, focus on the main layer ones, and as Born Majesty says, keep some cash on the side to buy on the dips. Wow, 148. It's pretty good. I'm so happy for those on my Discord who managed to actually buy Based. 180%. That's pretty good for 24 hours. Obviously, we had to wait a couple of weeks because the performance of this project at the start wasn't so great. We had to wait a little bit, but for those who had diamond hands, it is paying off. Rave. Meme core. Cool. A lot of opportunities, just as I always say, don't get greedy. Keep some cash on the side, because this is temporary. What we see right now, it's not going to last forever, and we just go parabolic from here. We would see the some good corrections coming up on the way. Okay. Well, if there are no more comments, if you guys missed the start, make sure you watch the replay, watch the recording, because we discussed something very important as a start, a shift that is happening, some information that you're probably not going to see others talking about, but those shifts that are happening are kind of structural. While everyone is focusing on the price, there are bigger shifts happening in the overall crypto infrastructure. So thanks for watching, thanks for being here. I'll see you again on Sunday for another live stream and another discussion. Thanks.